My name is Grace Halberg, 32 years old, and tonight my whole family will stand and cheer while my name is scrubbed from history in real time. I'm frozen at the back of the Pentagon's Hall of Heroes dress blues, sharp enough to cut glass, chest heavy with commendations that suddenly feel counterfeit. Lucas, my little brother, beams from the stage, all swagger and spotlight, as the MC booms his name for the 7th time. The sound system turns applause into cannon fire. The tremor in my chest keeps time like shrapnel. I inhale, metallic and cold, and taste the blood where I've bitten my lip. Pamphlet clenched so tight that the embossed seal leaves an angry welt. I check again every paragraph. Every glossy photo zero mentions of the woman who designed the mission he's being crowned for. Before the humiliation can calcify, my mother glides over in silk and pearls, voice dipped in honey. Darling, you look formal. Remember? Most guests wear simple suits, like Dad at my West Point graduation. He never even bothered with a tie. Her smile doesn't crack, but the pulse in her neck stutters. She plucks the pamphlet from my hand, tucks it behind her clutch, as though hiding evidence makes it disappear from memory. She's mastered that trick. Across the room, Dad Donald Halberg, former JAG turned defense contract lobbyist, raises a tumbler of 15-year scotch to some senator who loves headlines more than legislation. Their laughter ricochets off marble. Nobody notices me, except the old woman pressing through security. Grandma Margaret taps her cane once on the marble, the sound crisp as a pistol cock. She keeps the Halberg name. She tells the startled guard, eyes never leaving mine. She goes in. The guard steps back. I breathe. I promised myself tonight I wouldn't let rage hijack me. Rage is loud, erasure is quieter, crueler, but I can still choose how the story opens. Quick pause if this kind of family drama hits a nerve. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with the wildest time you were written out of your own story. We're going deep, and you don't want to miss how this one ends. Lucas launches into another rehearsed war tale, gesturing at a tactical map projected 40 feet high. I recognize every arrow, every color code I drew them in a Kandahar bunker 4 years ago. My pulse jackhammers. Sweat needles under my collar. I retreat down a service corridor, boots echoing off sterile walls, until fluorescent light replaces chandelier glow. My phone vibrates. Ro Kim, my old drone operator, FaceTimes from a Nevada motel. Static lines her exhausted grin. Grace, you watching? I'm surviving. They just unsealed Operation Hawthorne. Guess whose name sits under Mission Architect? I already know. You better also know the firmware tags on those drones read Halberg Consulting LLC. Your dad's shell company. Ice water floods my veins. Arctic clarity. Send everything. I find an empty conference room. Kill the lights. Flip open my laptop. Fingers shake as I punch my clearance into the department server. Hawthorne Final PDF flashes on screen. Green lettering scrolls across black terminal like an EKG flatlining edited by D. Halberg Law PC. The date stamp lands a gut punch 6 months after my promotion. Right when Dad bragged about handling optics. My breath sticks halfway. Vision tunnels. The chair creaks. I'm that cadet again. Polishing boots while my father tells Lucas, win the room and you win the war. A new text appears. Dr. Ellen Pierce, my foster sister, now head of AI ethics at MITRE. House Oversight has eyes on a $40 billion AI weapons contract linked to Dad's firm. They want a witness who can explain how battlefield credit turns into budget votes. I stare through my reflection in the dark screen, past tears that refuse to fall. The betrayal isn't just personal, it's systemic, weaponized. Margaret calls landline because she trusts chords over clouds. They expect you silent. She rasps. Are you still the girl who saluted injustice? Or the woman who dismantles it? I swallow iron. Give me 72 hours. Back in the gilded hall, the ceremony is cresting. Lucas reminds the crowd that leadership is sacrifice. My laugh almost escapes sharp. Feral, but I bite it back and adjust my ribbons. He doesn't see me leave. Outside, February wind slaps the Potomac, stealing heat from my lungs. Tomorrow. Headlines will crown him the Phoenix of Kandahar. I open a secure channel to row, pull every uncompressed drone feed, I instruct, cross-tag IP logs from Dad's office, you planning friendly fire, boss clean fire, truth is the cleanest ammo. As sirens wail somewhere across DC, I realize my hands no longer tremble. Instead, they move with cold precision, arranging data, pulling threads. Each keystroke a heartbeat, each file another round chambered. I drive all night to Arlington, headlights carving holes in darkness, mind replaying memories like corrupted video, Dad sliding his West Point cufflinks across the table to Lucas, Mom rehearsing the family crest toast, me invisible at my own promotion. Dawn splits the sky above the cemetery when I finally park. Rows of white headstones blur into snowdrifts. I march down silent aisles, stop where the unknown soldier lies. Metal clinks softly against marble as I whisper, "They tried to count you out. They tried the same on me." My breath fogs, then fades. Let's rewrite the tally. First light bleeds over the city as I hit send on a bundle of encrypted files. Roe Ellen, Congresswoman Olivia White, and General Sam Hargrave each receive a puzzle piece. Together, they form the kind of picture that burns careers to ash. A new message lights my phone before I even buckle up. Hargrave, come to Anacostia at 0900. Bring everything. And Grace? Where the stars? Engine turns over. Heart steadies. For the first time in years. The uniform feels light. The next 72 hours are going to redraw battle lines not in some desert valley, but in the marble halls where legacies are bartered. And this time, my name will echo loud enough to wake every ghost they buried beside it. General Hargrave's office sits inside a low-slung brick annex on Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, the kind of unadorned building that hides classified wars in plain sight. At 08:59, I shoulder through the door and he's already standing, craggy face unreadable, folder thick as a deadweight clutched in one fist. And before I can salute, he flips it open so I catch the first page upside down, my original Hawthorne battle plan, signature intact. Time-stamped weeks before Lucas ever set foot in that valley then, he says, in the gravelly murmur of a man who has ordered artillery without blinking. You want your name back or their empire buried, and the question hangs there like a live grenade waiting for a pin. I tell him both. So we spend the next hour mapping power structures the way I once mapped kill zones. Dad's lobbying web feeds a political action committee that funds the same congressional seats now shepherding the $40 billion AI weapons bill. Lucas is leverage. A poster child engineered to humanize machines. Mom curates the family's public myth with gala invitations and glowing profiles. Every strand loops through Hawthorne's doctored glory, and Hargrave's knuckles whiten on the folder as he whispers, "Rip one thread and the tapestry unravels," just as my phone vibrates with Roe's first payload raw drone footage, uncompressed, showing my voice directing troops while Lucas is 6 clicks away. Bloodied but decidedly not commanding evidence so clear it leaves my throat dry. Because truth this sharp can pierce friend and foe alike. And Hargrave nods toward the base motor pool. You have 72 hours, time to cut. We drive 2 miles to a windowless skiff where Ellen Pierce is piped in via secure hollow. The image lagging half a heartbeat behind her voice, she outlines the algorithm Dad's firm slipped into Pentagon procurement software. A line of code that auto-boosts bids from vendor IDs seeded by Halberg Consulting Legal if undiscovered. Treasonous if proven, Olivia White joins. Eyes flinty, promising a public hearing on C-SPAN if we can trace money to signatures before Monday. Roe appears last, hoodie up in some desert parking lot, reporting she hacked the firmware registry and found Dad's digital fingerprints stamped across every revision. The 4 feeds buzz like wasps. But synergy forms. Hargrave wields authority. White brandishes subpoena power. Ellen dissects the code. Roe cracks the vaults. And I, the architect they erased, become the gravity holding them in orbit. Yet each pledge we make chains my family closer to collapse. And Ellen closes the session with a single sentence that stings worse than gunpowder. Grace. When this airs, there is no going home. By nightfall, I'm outside the Watergate Hotel bar, coat collar up against sleet. Because Maya Brooks insisted on an off-record meet, The reporter's eyes shine with ambition as she slides me a flash drive containing internal Senate memos that predate Dad's lobbying disclosures. Proving he lied under oath about first contact dates, I give her only a teaser, metadata snippets. Nothing lethal while she gives me a promise run the story Sunday dawn, just hours before the hearing. Maximize public outrage. And when I step back into the cold, the Potomac wind feels like judgment. But I clutch the drive knowing timing is ammunition and we are stacking magazines. 48 hours left and I'm summoned to the family brownstone. Ostensibly for reconciliation, Mom circles the foyer, pouring chamomile tea that smells like resignation. Lucas leans against the mantelpiece rehearsing excuses. Dad arrives late, cufflinks gleaming, legal pad already annotated. And the scene plays like courtroom theater until I drop a printed frame grab of the drone footage on the coffee table, my call sign. GPS coordinates. Time code followed by a second sheet showing Dad's IP address modifying the ops report. Lucas pales. Mom's teacup rattles. Dad's smile never wavers but his pupils contract. And he asks, almost tender, what I want to make this disappear. I tell him nothing in private can fix what he broke in public. And as I leave, Mom catches my sleeve, whispering that families survive by trimming the branches that grow too wild. To which I answer, then sharpen your shears, shutting the door on her gasp because mercy is a luxury they forfeited. And on the sidewalk, my knees buckle for a heartbeat before resolve locks them straight, for every step now marches toward the hill. 24 hours. Olivia White's war room hums like a beehive. Interns pinning yarn between photos on corkboards while staff attorneys draft subpoenas. I sit at a cluttered desk reviewing a cascade of emails Roe just decrypted executive bonuses pegged to Lucas's medal count. Marketing pitches tying Halberg-led victory to AI drone adoption. A chilling line from Dad narrative precedes budget, and the phrase coils in my gut until White plants both palms on the table and says, we release this in the first 10 minutes, then play the feed. Her voice steady, but eyes fierce, and in that moment I sense the tide turning. Yet a rogue thought surfaces when the dam breaks. Truth floods indiscriminately. Will Lucas drown, or learn to swim? And does that decision even belong to me? And the doubt flickers, only to be buried by Roe's next text, power outage at your dad's data center scheduled LMAO. A hacking grin in ASCII, signifying that retreat is no longer an option, because the explosives are already wired. Midnight before the hearing. I'm alone in a borrowed Georgetown loft, rehearsing testimony under dim light. The city outside pulses neon and sirens. Oblivious to legacy wars, I recite timestamps, casualty counts, procurement codes until numbers blur. Then see a silhouette at the door. Lucas, eyes rimmed red, hoodie damp from rain. He says he never meant for it to spiral. That Dad promised the switch was temporary. That he was afraid I'd eclipse him. And when I ask if he remembers the night I coached him through his panic before his first solo flight, he nods, tears spilling, and whispers he's sorry. Apology lands soft as ash, incapable of smothering the burn. Yet part of me grieves the boy who once followed me through cornfields with a wooden sword. I tell him tomorrow I testify. And nothing he says can alter that trajectory. But if he wants redemption, he can appear beside me and admit the lie. He flinches, backs away, mouth working around words he cannot voice. And the door closes without an answer, leaving the room echoing with everything unsaid just as the congressional subpoena notification pings my phone. Final confirmation that at 0900 the cameras roll, and sleep dodges me like an enemy scout. Dawn bleeds gray over Capitol Hill. I knot my tie before a cracked mirror. Pin on the star insignia Hargrave returned to me. Inhale until ribs ache. Exhale until fear quiets. The convoy ride feels shorter than memory. Protesters already chanting outside Longworth, some waving signs hailing Lucas, others demanding AI oversight. Inside, marble floors gleam, and as Olivia White ushers me toward the double doors, I catch my reflection, eyes steady. Jaw set, but behind that glass, another reflection forms. Dad in a dark suit flanked by lawyers. Lucas one step behind, face pale yet determined. The sergeant-at-arms calls the session to order. Gavels echo like distant artillery, and I step into the hearing room where microphones sprout like bayonets and every lens thirsts for spectacle. My heart thunders once, then settles into the familiar cadence of battle briefing. Because after 4 years of silence, the next words I speak will detonate on live television. And nothing the Halbergs built will ever look the same again. The oath is a formality, but my throat still tightens as I raise my right hand before the packed committee room. C-SPAN cameras blinking red like watchful cyclopes, marble walls bouncing every murmur into a growl. Congresswoman Olivia White thanks me, then invites the ranking member to read the mission citation that credits Lucas as architect. A deliberate provocation that settles over the crowd like sulfur. And when she yields the microphone to me, the hush is so complete I can hear my own pulse counting down toward detonation. I breathe once, steady, cue the clerk to play Exhibit A, and the wall-sized monitor flares to life with raw drone footage, desert dust, radio chatter, my voice cutting through chaos as I issue flank commands time-stamped minutes after Lucas's own medevac record proves he lay unconscious under morphine. Gasps ripple. Lucas's jaw drops. Dad's eyebrow twitches, but I don't look at them. I watch the subcommittee members lean forward, hungry, and I end my opening statement with one unvarnished sentence. This is what theft of valor looks like now. Let's follow the money. The chairman bangs his gavel to restore order. Yet the uproar only swells behind my ribs, ready to spill into the next revelation. White takes the baton, unveiling Rose forensics on the procurement code, one rogue if statement buried 8 layers deep that auto-elevates bids carrying a Halberg vendor string, staffers whisper. Aides dart to phones. Screens flicker with scrolling amendments. Dad finally requests to be heard for the sake of transparency. And the room tilts as he glides forward. Smile carved from courtroom granite, insisting the code was beta software never deployed and that any metadata linking his IP to Hawthorne is a tragic clerical overlap. He wields plausible deniability like a surgeon's scalpel. But White simply gestures to a second monitor, where Ellen appears via secure link and walks the panel through commit histories signed by Dad's digital certificate. Each commit named after a chess-opening Sicilian, King's Gambit, fool's mate proof he considered the whole affair a game. And in that instant, I feel the audience turn. Collective outrage gathering like thunder. Because nobody cheers for a man who jokes while soldiers bleed. And Dad's polished composure finally cracks as the chairman subpoenas the entire Halberg consulting server farm on live television. A subpoena that lands like a gauntlet on marble and leaves him visibly rattled enough that Lucas reaches out. But Dad shrugs him off, and the divide between them widens into a chasm neither can cross before the next question lands. The ranking member, eager for balance, asks whether my evidence might be misinterpreted sibling rivalry. Giving Lucas a spotlight to salvage himself, he stands, voice trembling, and admits he failed to correct the record when first shown the doctored report. Explaining that fear of losing funding for his squadron kept him silent. The confession is half bravery, half self-preservation, yet his eyes lock on mine as though seeking absolution. And for a heartbeat, I remember the boy who hid under my blanket during thunderstorms. But the chairman isn't sentimental. He asks whether Lucas will submit to a perjury review. And when Lucas nods, shoulders caving inward, the cameras catch every ounce of collapse. A slow-motion implosion that punctures the myth Mom built, setting viewers nationwide ablaze with opinions even before the commercial break can cut in. Mom isn't here, and I'm glad. Because the next exhibit would shatter even her practiced smile. Maya Brooks's Sunday Dawn article scrolls across the feed. Headline blazing lobby, lies, and lineage the Halberg AI pipeline, and the committee clerk reads select passages aloud. Quoting internal Senate emails that show Dad promising defense contractors a 300% ROI once Lucas's hero narrative secures public support. Dad lunges for a microphone, protests defamation. But White reminds him truth is an absolute defense. Hargrave rises in uniform at the back, depositing a sealed Inspector General report onto the witness table, and the Sergeant-at-Arms steps forward as the chairman declares a recess to deliberate potential contempt charges. The murmurs swell into a roar, and Dad's counsel hustles him toward the exit, yet cannot outrun the swarm of reporters pooling like floodwater in the corridor, leaving me seated alone, hands folded, the eye of the storm that's only begun to spin. Recess drags an hour. When we reconvene, the committee votes unanimously to refer Dad for criminal investigation and to freeze all Halberg Consulting contracts pending audit. While Lucas receives a formal Air Force inquiry into falsified citations, the chairman thanks me for service, gavels adjournment, and the doors open to a wall of flashbulbs that ricochet light off my medals until I feel transparent. Exposed. But beneath the sensory assault, a weight lifts 4 years of swallowed injustice, evaporating in a single legal motion. Still, I hold composure until I reach the Capitol steps where protesters now chant my name. And only then does my voice crack as I tell the press. Valor isn't currency. And today, we repossessed every stolen cent. A statement that detonates across social feeds even as raindrops start falling, each drop hissing on hot limestone like punctuation. Yet the growing storm is nothing compared to the voicemail that arrives while cameras still whirl around me. It's Mom, voice brittle as shattered porcelain, pleading that the family can talk, that damage control is possible, that love should eclipse blame. I delete the message without listening beyond the first sentence, because my love language is accountability. And I walk past the news vans toward a waiting SUV where Olivia White hands me a manila envelope stamped top-line projection, inside draft legislation mandating independent oversight of autonomous weapons contracting, a law they want me to champion. And as the driver pulls into evening traffic, the city lights flicker across the windshield, mirroring the code strings that started this fire. Yet before I can savor victory, the SUV's radio crackles with breaking news. Federal marshals have entered Dad's data center, and in response, unknown actors have begun wiping servers in real time, suggesting someone still loyal to him is scrambling to erase the trail, and my pulse spikes because if the core logs vanish, so does the chance to convict, setting up a new chase that will test every alliance forged today and every nerve I have left. Ellen's voice bursts from the secure speaker in the SUV. Breathless. Lagging half a second behind digital clicks, the wipe signal is coming from an airborne relay. A Gulfstream leased through 3 shell firms that trace back unsurprisingly to Dad's lobby shop, and the purge will cascade through every federated backup within 90 minutes. Ro chimes in from Nevada, wind roaring over her mic as she sprints across an airstrip toward a hangar she rigged a shadow replica of the Halberg servers last year out of paranoia and caffeine. But even that mirror is being hit by the same kill script. So she's heading to yank the physical drives before the virus burns their platters to glass. I tell the driver to redirect to Andrews for immediate flight clearance, because if Ro goes dark, we lose the bedrock of our case, and Hargrave, patched in from the Pentagon, orders an Air Force Osprey on standby. Yet time shrinks in my chest like a vice as the Capitol dome recedes behind us and the sky ahead bruises with storm. The sense that every mile between me and Ro is another line of defense snapping under pressure. 22 minutes later, we're airborne in a tilt rotor that rattles like a tin can in crosswinds, rotors slashing the clouds while I strap in across from Olivia White, who is reviewing an emergency injunction on her tablet. If we can prove active evidence tampering, we can freeze every Halberg account before dawn, but she needs a hash-verified data block to hand the judge. And right now, Ro's drives are the only uncorrupted copies. Lightning forks outside the window, casting strobe onto White's determined face. Yet I can't stop picturing Ro alone in that desert hangar with nothing but a sidearm and a bag of screwdrivers, while whoever triggered the Gulfstream script might have boots on the ground. And as turbulence kicks the fuselage, I grip the canvas seat until my knuckles blanch, hearing the countdown tick and the drone of the engines. Ro's next transmission comes ragged, breath hitching she's inside the rat cage, manual overrides fighting her, status LEDs flickering from green to amber in a dying Christmas pattern. Someone cut main power, but the virus keeps running off battery backups. So she's shoving drive sleds into a duffel and prepping an EMP grenade to fry the remainder. Deny the saboteurs a single bite. I tell her to hold the blast until we land. Data must survive transport, but static swallows half her response. Then a new male voice leaks through, low, calm, promising her double whatever she's being paid if she walks away. Ro laughs, feral. and the line severs, leaving nothing but the pop of distant thunder, and I taste copper as fear floods my mouth. Because that voice sounded like one of Dad's longtime security consultants. Ex-Blackwater, men who mistake intimidation for air. The Osprey touches down on the dusk-lit tarmac near Nellis, rotors still whining when the back ramp drops, and Hargrave's attaché thrusts me an M17 pistol standard issue. Heavy with implications, I chamber around while sprinting toward the hangar. White at my heels, flanked by 2 Capitol police officers. The door hangs crooked, padlock blown, smell of ozone and burning plastic wafting out. And over the hum of emergency lights, I catch Rose's strained curses somewhere deeper. We move in tight diamond formation past toppled server stacks and shredded Ethernet bundles until I see her on one knee. Duffel half-zipped, barrel of her Glock pressed to the throat of a man in tactical black whose hands hover in surrender. She shouts that there are 2 more fleeing with a Pelican case toward a waiting SUV. And without thinking, I bolt. Boots skidding on concrete, pulse mismatching the alarms as I clear the exit just in time to see taillights fishtail through sand, kicking up a blizzard that blinds everything beyond their red glow. White's officers yank open a Humvee parked near the gate. I climb behind the wheel, engine roaring awake, and the chase is on across flat desert lit only by the afterglow of Vegas over the horizon. The smuggler's SUV jinks left, tires carving snakes in dust, and I floor the throttle. Speedometer climbing, wind punching my face through missing side glass while White braces herself against the roll bar shouting coordinates to an incoming State Patrol heli. The distance narrows to 50 yards. 30. Headlights bathing their bumper, and I glimpse the Pelican case through the rear window just as a muzzle flashes from the passenger seat. Rounds spark off our hood, and instinct slams the Humvee into a fishtail that skews us sideways but keeps momentum, closing the gap enough that I can see the shooter's silhouette, impossibly familiar posture, and when lightning tears the sky, I recognize Lucas behind the trigger, face contorted in panic, not malice. A split-second incongruity that almost makes me lift my foot off the gas. Yet the case in his lap is the evidence survival depends on, and hesitation is a luxury buried yesterday. I swerve, clipping their tail end, metal shrieking, the SUV skids, loses traction, flips slow motion, glass scattering like diamonds under headlights. We grind to a stop yards away, hearts drumming louder than cooling engines. I stumble out, weapon drawn, White covering me, and approach the wreck where Lucas crawls from the passenger side bleeding at the hairline. Hands raised, Pelican case clutched to his chest. He stammers that Dad paid mercs to erase everything but double-cross them. So Lucas stole the drives first to keep Dad from nuking the proof and to prove to me that he's done hiding. Sirens wail in the distance as state troopers converge, and for one suspended breath the desert holds its exhale while I level the pistol between us. Mine torn between the sibling who betrayed me and the soldier who just saved the chain of custody. Comprehension nodding like barbed wire around choice. Thunder rolls over the flats as I keep the sights trained on Lucas. Sand sticks to the sweat on his cheeks, pupils blown wide with shock. Yet the case is still locked between his arms like a life ring, and I hear my own breath rasp through grit, while memories flicker teaching him to tie a square knot. Coaching his flight sim nightmares. Watching him steal my war until the blur crystallizes into a single decision, I lower the muzzle, take 3 strides, and clamp my free hand over the Pelican handle, our fingers brushing with a spark that feels like breaking glass. He exhales one word, please, and I yank the case free. Snap cuffs onto his wrists with the other hand. Because mercy without justice is repetition, and repetition ends tonight. Patrol cruisers crest the ridge in a wave of blue strobes, White signals chain of custody. Troopers snap crime scene photos, and Rose skids up on an ATV, duffel slung across her back, announcing she fried the remaining drives after cloning them. So we now possess 2 mirrored archives plus Lucas's hostage prize. Hargrave's voice booms from my sat phone ordering air evac to Quantico for forensic imaging. But the medic's immediate focus is Lucas's concussion and 2 cracked ribs. And as they slide him onto a stretcher, he catches my eye. Mouthing, "Thank you," through a grimace, I turn away. Commandeer a trooper dashcam to record the evidence transfer. And when the rotors of a medevac bird whip dust into spirals around us, I feel the first tremor of relief, but the sky is still bruised, and Dad is still free. and the servers may hold darker ghosts than even I suspect.
Dawn finds us back in D.C., inside a federal courtroom pulsing with reporters. The forensic team has verified hashes. Olivia White brandishes affidavits, and the judge signs an emergency asset freeze so broad it seizes Dad's personal accounts, halts Halberg Consulting operations worldwide, and bars Mom from funneling Art Trust money into defense PACs. Dad appears via counsel, face slate gray on the video feed. Learning in real time that his private plane was diverted to Florida and boarded by U.S. Marshals who discovered flight plans to non-extradition havens, the judge revokes bail, issues a material witness order, and schedules an arraignment that will be televised like a sporting final as proceedings recess. White leans and whispers that the oversight bill now has bipartisan momentum, and I realize the empire really is crumbling. Yet a shard of dread lingers. The cost of rubble is always paid in collateral hearts, and the next collapse could be inside my own chest if I'm not careful. Public reaction detonates faster than any airstrike. Hashtags split families over dinner. Veterans flood comment threads with stories of stolen credit. And an op-ed in the Post dubs me the accountant of valor, crunching stolen accolades back to rightful owners amid the swirl. Lucas's statement leaks from the military hospital, a full confession, acceptance of court-martial, and a plea that Hawthorne families forgive his silence. Dad's indictment drops the same afternoon. 37 counts, including conspiracy and fraud. While Mom releases a clipped apology that mentions misguided loyalty but never my name, Ellen emails scans of early drafts of my AI oversight testimony, adding margin notes like a proud professor, and Roe flies to D.C. to debrief with Cyber Command. But late at night, I still review satellite replays of the desert chase, frame by frame, searching for the moment where brother became ally again, wondering whether redemption scales the way betrayal does. And the unanswered question keeps me awake past 3 a.m. What if the next war starts inside the ones we're still fighting? 3 weeks later, West Point's spring sun bathes the plain in gold. I stand on the dais, ribboned podium before me, rows of cadets at attention, each shoulder squared toward possibilities I once thought closed. Grandma Margaret sits front row, cane across her lap, expression fierce enough to punch holes in time. And when the band's drumline fades, I tell the story not of theft, but of reclamation, how silence is strategic only until it becomes complicity, how courage sometimes looks like paperwork and subpoenas, how every name here will be tested by temptations wrapped in family crests. Cadets nod, some wipe tears, and I end with a challenge coin flipped into the air, engraved with a compass. Landing in Lieutenant Evelyn Sharp's palm is testament that direction outshines pedigree. Applause swells. But I spot Lucas at the field's edge in civilian clothes, arm in sling, flanked by 2 JAG officers, watching with a fragile sort of pride, and though rules forbid contact before his sentencing, he lifts his unbound hand in a small salute that I mirror with 2 fingers against my brow, an unfinished sentence that promises a better edit later. Night drapes over the Hudson as I store my uniform. Phone buzzing with 1,000 alerts I ignore. I climb the chapel tower, wind whipping, city lights winking like circuit boards below, and record a final voice memo for the channel that justice, when earned, not inherited. Tastes of iron and dawn. That truth can be buried, but it composts, feeding new resolve. That if viewers ever feel erased, they should remember stories are code. Rewrite the functions, reroute the calls, relaunch. I sign off, stare at the dark water, and let the recorder run 5 seconds of silence before ending, because sometimes the most powerful hook is the promise that the next chapter is unwritten and waiting for whoever refuses to be ghosted. And the horizon answers with quiet that sounds exactly like possibility.